Welcome back to part 2 of my nostalgic Sega MegaDrive games. Yes, there's a part 1 obviously, and obviously I'm going to recommend you check that video out now or after this one, but let's crack on. In this series I take a look over some of the most nostalgic games I had growing up, and not necessarily the best games, I mean check this crap out. Just ones that have stuck with me over the years. So, alright then boy, I am LetemcomeInit, and won't you join me for my nostalgic top Mega Drive games part 2. Now we're talking pure nostalgia. You can't mention the mere name of Mortal Kombat without evoking some blood-drenched, spine-ripping, skull-burning action. Even the word combat sometimes conjures up the iconic lucky red and black dragon of the box art. Though they spelt it with a K as their edgelords obviously. This game has gone down in history as the graphic violence fest that introduced the age rating system. But as a child, I don't remember there being a massive fuss about that over in the UK, to be honest. I didn't get my copy until later in life, simply as there were always one or two of my mates who had this, so if I wanted to get my electrocution head explosion fix, or set someone alight with my flame-throwing bastard burp breath, there was always someone on hand. Street Fighter 2, or more specifically, Street Fighter 2 Special Championship Edition, giving it the big boy sell there, Capcom mate. As a kid, I wasn't all that into the fighting genre, hence these two's position. But it wasn't until I got a bit older and into the Tekken series that it really caught on for me. We'll get to them later in the series. It's undeniable though. Nostalgia or otherwise, you say fighting game, you think Street Fighter. Again, with the box art and kart, this is hugely iconic and still looks excellent today. Looks like a massive M. Bison is going to do a double backhand slap and squash a tiny running Ryu. Oh yeah, and special moves, special moves, special moves, special moves. As an immature baby, I don't think I ever fully appreciated how Hollywood big-budget guns a-blazing, explosions everywhere and power-rocking theme tune this intro really was. You almost fully expect a bloody baby-oiled Arnie to come busting out the window with a Gatling gun. Get to the chopper! Come on, it's a game about a chopper after all, I bloody had to. I was actually quite good at this one back in the day, and the game offers a brilliantly fleshed out campaign with a variety of vehicles to commandeer, including an attack bike, your standard helicopter, hovercraft, and stealth bomber. Bloody boom boy. Bollocks. You've got yourself 10 missions across a really wide variety of landscapes to fight through and 5 co-pilots to choose from, 4 of which will need rescuing as they're currently missing in action. And anyone who says they resisted the urge to blow up the White House at some point, if not the very first thing they did on the game, is a liar. Another EA game on the list that's an absolute banger is Haunting, starring Poltergeist. Though we are talking EA before they became the all-consuming, company-destroying wankers they are today, to be fair. You take control of Poltergeist, who's out for revenge in ghost form after a faulty skateboard manufactured by the dodgy business tycoon Vito Sardini got him killed. Straight off the bat, this game oozes style and character. Hey, see what I did there? The graphics take on a gloriously isometric perspective with huge attention to detail and hundreds of combinations of items for you to haunt. The game itself has some really unique gameplay elements too, playing out somewhat like a puzzle game as you haunt the different members out of the house. I think this dude would have made an excellent mascot for the system too, a green-haired, leather jacket-wearing punk. Step aside, you blue bugger. Now here's a game that I barely ever hear mentioned by anyone, but it's a real hidden gem. It's an odd hybrid mix of sort of a racing game and elements of combat, and even a sort of beat-em-up style with the ability to slap and use weapons to affect players' health. You have a wide variety of races to play as: Sumo San, Frankenstein, Helmut, Surf Sister, and this guy who me and my sister used to call Grandpa Farty Pants. Yeah, we were mature children, what are you gonna do? Each character had 2 special attacks, one in the air and one on the ground, that you could use to take out the competition, and a really cool little bomb mechanic which could be slapped to other players and passed. Bombs running out, bombs running out, bombs running out, bollocks! It also featured a multiplayer football or soccer mode, which I always thought was crap, and a rumble mode, which was not crap. Overall, really worth checking out for the variety, creativeness and style here. Innovation in the kart racer genre for sure, in my books, and comes highly recommended. Jurassic Park. Jurassic bloody Park, son. If you grew up in the 90s or even the 80s and you don't like Jurassic Park, the first and best film in the series, you are 1, a liar, and 2, bollocks. This was the King Kong of the day, this film. I actually built this huge hulking T-Rex and everything. Look at him stomping all over the cars, chewing the tyres and roaring and shit. Then there were the toys, and the lunch boxes and the rip-off toys, and bloody hell we're getting sidetracked now. Now, there are actually a few games under the JP banner, including Rampage Edition and Lost World for the MegaDrive. But I had the first game in the series, and you know what? The game itself is actually a bit crap. But who cares? It's got dinosaurs in it, right? The platforming is finicky, slippery and awkward, you are slow and jump like a constipated Tyrannosaurus Rex, and some of the levels aren't all that creative at all. However, I will overlook all of that as you can play as a raptor, so I don't bloody care. First off, let me just say this game is ridiculous. It's bloody ridiculous. You play as Magic Michael Jackson, spinning around, making fairy dust noises, touching yourself, throwing your magic exploding hat at people, making everyone dance, touching yourself a little bit more, finding lost children, and grooving about the place. Moonwalk. And this is all fine and dandy. I mean, this was when he was at the height of his fame, at a point in his career where you could literally make games about rescuing children from car boots and no one would bat an eyelid. I mean, this is madness. This is pure, unadulterated, too much money having madness. This game is not a lot of fun, and the cover is also creepy. Now, the arcade version of Michael Jackson's Moonwalker, that's a different kettle of fish, being a quality beat-em-up, but this is not that game. Again, one I didn't own myself until I picked up a Japanese cart later in life. No, this was another neighbour game, one I used to go next door and play on basically. Though one thing I will give it is the brilliant renditions of Smooth Criminal, Beat It, Bad and Billie Jean, which are bloody great. Oh, and you can make everyone do the anti-gravity lean and die. Now, here's a game that I've talked about at length before, and for good reason. It's one that really defines nostalgia for me. The first Bullfrog game I ever owned, and the first game I physically ever bought myself too. There's something really visually appealing about these bright cartoon-like graphics, and the British Bullfrog humour is in full flow throughout the writing in this game. As outlined in my retrospective on the game, for me this is the best port of the original game by a long shot, and I can still pick up this simplistic little simulator today and get enjoyment out of it. Sega had a lot of Disney titles on their systems. The Mega Drive in particular had some great titles in Aladdin, Quackshot, Lion King, and many, many other faithfully recreated classics. But for me, graphically and gameplay wise, World of Illusion has always stuck with me, and is still on my shelf all these years later. As for the gameplay itself, there are essentially 3 campaigns, each with a blend of levels. Mickey's, the basic campaign, Donald, the slightly harder campaign in my opinion, well, for children, and co-op, which if you're playing with a younger sister like I was in my case, was almost impossible. Something though that has always stood out on this title head and shoulders above all is the brilliant soundtrack and lovingly created graphics. Both foreground, background and centre, all given time and great effort, combined with a variety of upbeat light scores. making this really a full-bodied, impressive Disney experience. Yes, now where it may seem this game makes it onto many lists, and my nostalgic games is no different, it is with bloody good reason. It really is a masterclass in how to get a beat 'em up right. Tight responsive controls, great pacing and stunning graphics. The moveset has just the right variety of moves as to give difference without swamping the player or getting boring. It's one of those rare games where you could tell the first level by a tiny rectangle alone, so iconic and memorable it is. And though I could wax lyrical about the gameplay, design and visuals of this one, what is most nostalgic for me, and I think the crowning glory of the title, would be the stunning soundtrack. Composed by Yuzo Koshiro, it's a masterful mix of techno, trance, dance, electro and hardcore married perfectly to the dirty street surroundings, sunset beaches and industrial wastelands. This really pushes the MegaDrive sound chip to the limit and achieves things I would not have thought were possible on the system had I not heard them on this game. But don't just take my word for it, apparently it's even been considered by some as one of the best games of all time. One of the best games of all time. Of all time. Let that just sink in. I mean, that's heavy praise, but fuck yeah, why not? To those of you that know the channel, this may not come as much of a surprise, my number one pick, but I make no apologies for these two taking the most nostalgic spot for me. Everything about this game is a mad nostalgia trip. From the opening Sega screenroll to the initial taste of the funk soundtrack's first notes, right up into the return home to Purple Funkatron, complete with whole Toe Jam and Earl clans. Now, initially the game was a bit of a commercial flop for Sega, and it's not a game that is easy to pigeonhole, being somewhat an action-adventure but with a roguelike element and a heavy emphasis on exploration and trial and error. Over the years though, it is a game that has grown to cult status, and one that I've owned again since those days of way back, with my particular cart having been well loved and sun-bleached over the years, now safely sheathed out of the way of any more damage. One of the overriding things about the game, besides its unique bright graphics and proper job soundtrack, is its sense of fun and left-field oddball humour. It's one that has aged fantastically and is just as great and fresh today, but with the nostalgic 16-bit fix and cultural send-ups of the 80s and 90s that you want in there too. Toe Jam and Earl is pure perfection in my books, and shows so much can be done with comparatively so little, and with the remake just around the corner, I can only hope that they show it as much love as the original. Now I had planned on this being a top 22, but considering there is a great plethora of nostalgic games on this system for me, let's have some honorary mentions instead. So there you have it, my top nostalgic games for one of my favourite consoles. But do let me know your top picks in the comments down below. If you've enjoyed this episode, do feel free to subscribe for more, and for some extra content and quality bonuses, check out my Patreon here. A thank you and good night.